Hi, my name is Michelle Moore, and today's screencast is about exit strategies. This screencast is for Entrepreneurship 640 Entrepreneurial Feasibility Analysis at Western Carolina University for the Masters of Entrepreneurship program. You don't immediately think, I must plan for an out when I've just jumped in. But this rationale is indeed so when it comes to entrepreneurial success. This is your baby. You have planted, watered, tended, weathered, and harvested only to see your field of dreams in the rearview mirror instead of the windshield. In The Founder's Dilemma, Noam Wasserman speaks about failure, success, and founder CEO succession. He quotes, as the founders and employees of startups celebrate each milestone, feeling that much nearer to the success they envision, they seldom realize that they may also be that much nearer to the day when the fearless leader who hired them and has brought them this far will be replaced. He says that one person commented, if the company takes, I'm gone. But if it's a big hit, I'm also gone. Noting also that slow growth, called middling success, proved to have the lowest rate of founder CEO departure. Why are exit strategies a reality? Here are some of the reasons why and the challenges. One, stages of growth. A CEO may not be able to lead through the next stage of development. What starts as a cross-country long-distance run can evolve into a relay race where it's time to hand the baton in order to advance in a competitive race. Then there's fundraising. The more outside investors you recruit, the more control you lose. Yes, growth is accelerated, but power has also now been shifted. And then outside investors want their return on an investment. Washington says, the father of the baby is being fired by his invited guests. Remember that equity investments are not like loans with interest. The investors see no return until they see cash or cashing out of the company as it is sold. And then there's the art of the start. Successful entrepreneurs find the thrill is gone, and after a certain threshold of whether it's either employees or revenue, they're ready to move on. The mindset shifts from creating a work of art to operating a cookie cutter company. And then sometimes it's just time for a do-over. They start a new entity. They have new ideas and spin-offs that they've been percolating for a few years. And even better, you can avoid the mistakes from the first round. Exit strategies are about return on investments. They allow you to plan for an out. You ultimately want to optimize the best situation rather than escaping from a bad one. And exit strategies are about succession planning and successful transition. We are going to take a look at 5 common types of exit strategies, which would be selling to a friendly individual or family member, selling to employees, mergers and acquisitions, an initial public offering, or ultimately liquidation and closure. Selling to a friendly individual or a family member is a good way to cash out, to reimburse the investors and yourself, and it's a good way to retire and just enjoy life. The friendliest buyout, of course, occurs with the family. As long as you keep your radar up and scan for dysfunction, plan so that the business will exist, because sometimes siblings end up fighting over the shares, and it causes the business to decompose right before your eyes. If you become emotionally attached, consider passing ownership to someone you know that is as passionate about the business as you are, and your legacy will go on. Interested parties in this category include customers, employees, children, and other relatives. But who is the ideal buyer? It should be someone who has a strong skill set in operations for scaling purposes. You can sell to current employees or managers as an exit strategy. One option is for the seller to finance the sale with interest, and it lets the buyer pay it off over time. For example, a diner owner who is retiring, he can offer the diner to a cook, and let's just say this cook is really a chef without credentials, and he offers it to them at a great deal. Here, the owner still makes a profit than he or she would if they would just close the doors completely. The chef now becomes an entrepreneur without disrupting the customer base, and it's a win-win situation for everyone involved. Another way of setting up an exit strategy is through an employee share ownership plan. It's a stock equity plan for employees that lets them acquire ownership in the company. However, an employee buyout doesn't have to involve a stock equity plan. It might be as simple as having one of the current employees take over the business with a straight purchase. When you are transferring ownership to management, that person has a commitment to make it work because they have already worked alongside of you. A merger and acquisition is a very common exit strategy. Usually it involves similar companies or one company being bought by a larger company. You can sometimes hear it called as a merger of equals. This is a win-win situation when bordering companies have complementary skills and they can save resources by combining. Acquisition is one of the most common exit strategies. You find another business that wants to buy yours and you sell quickly. In an acquisition, you negotiate price, a price which is good for you. And if you choose the right acquirer, your perceived value can be inflated, but seek a strategic fit. Even though a merger or acquisition is common, there is a dark side or a downside to it if it's a bad fit. The combined companies can self-destruct, and the acquired management team can end up locked into working for the combined company, and then things totally head south. And they watch the implosion that is just lurking on the horizon. Acquisitions can come with non-compete agreements and other strings that can make you rich, but they also can make your life unpleasant for a time. I worked for a regional bank, which we had what was called a merger of equals, and this very thing happened. It felt like the bank was going back in time because we were a $3 billion bank, and the bank that acquired us was a $500 million bank. And it was a very disheartening situation, especially when we had worked to build the bank for several years. And then when the housing market crashed, one bad decision crashed the whole company. Another type of exit strategy is an initial public offering, which is a fast track to riches. They make the headlines, and in some cases, they produce the 20-year-old millennial billionaires. But with IPOs, shareholders are demanding, and liability concerns are high. Investment bankers take 6% off the top, and transactions can run into the millions of dollars. Another concern is that as an owner, you may be personally liable or subject to prosecution for any prior accounting irregularities or failure to disclose. A final type of exit strategy is liquidation and closure. Everything comes to an end by closing the doors forever. Proceeds can be used to pay off creditors, and the remaining can be divided amongst shareholders. The hardest decision is deciding to close. Then the business goes fairly simple. We have all seen the going out of business signs: 30% off, 50% off, 70% off, final days, no returns. But this type of exit strategy usually has a low return on investments, and sometimes you destroy relationships. In conclusion, just as you plan to build the business to be profitable, plan to leave the business with a profit. I refer back to an early slide to plan for out with quotes from sources that I used to prepare this presentation. Steve Robbins talks about the return on investment. He says, you see, it's not enough to build a business worth a fortune. You have to make sure you have an exit strategy, a way to get the money back out. Martin Zwilling refers to the plan. Don't wait until you are forced out. Plan your way out. And then Susan Ward talks to transition. The best strategy is the one that best fits your business and personal goals. Planning in advance gives you time to do it right and maximize on your returns. Again, my name is Michelle Moore, and thank you so much for watching this presentation on exit strategies.